Hey, 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 Dr.Minesha here, affectionately known as Dr. M, live in the Peace Driven Leader Lounge with the beautiful Michele Hoover. Thank you so much for joining us in the lounge today. It's such a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, before we dive into this conversation, I just want to do a little housekeeping for those of you who are listening to us for the very first time. I am so grateful and honored that our paths crossed when it did. You have now connected to a source and a resource with real leaders who are serious about real transformation. They love, they live, and they lead differently, not according to what the outside stress driven world is saying and doing out there, but anchored into their authentic self, their divine identity. They refuse to settle. They want to rise to the occasion. Exceptional leadership doesn't just mean how much money they make and what they look like on paper. It is really what's happening in the inside of their life, the relationships that matter, the things that truly matter in life. And so if you're listening and that resonates with you, continue to lean in. Now, I will warn you, I would be remiss if I didn't warn you that I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to say. So although this is recorded, it is a very live element to these podcast episodes because Michele doesn't know what I'm going to say and I have no clue what she is going to say. And we absolutely love it that way. So if you're up to just tuning in to a conversation, let it speak to your soul. I really believe that God uses these conversations inside the lounge to get to you exactly what you need to hear in the moment you need to hear it. And so if you believe that, lean in. If anything is said that is contrary or conflicting or feels uncomfortable, that's where you need to lean in. That's not where you need to jump into the chat and make your opinions and, state your facts. No, this is about emotional intelligence here. These are leaders who are always looking for opportunities to grow. And so if growth leadership is your thing, let that let that be the thing that gets you to the edge of your next level of leadership, right? With that being said, I would love for you to introduce yourself, Michele. Just give us anything that you would like about you, just to give us a little bit more context about who you are.
Mm, Thank you so much. So, a little bit of context about me. I have been in the customer service industry for more than 25 years. My career spans airlines, restaurants, retail, education, and now coaching. And so, yeah, lots of
Wow.
experience working with people, directly with people, face to face with people. I even had a little stint, I call it a little stint, but just shy of a couple years in corporate as well.
Yeah.
So, working in lots of different industries and lots of background that has shaped what I've done. I went back to school at 38.
You
So
go.
there's been a little bit of transition there. I have moved my family probably 8 different times, so starting again has been a really big element for us.
Mm.
When I worked in airlines, it was through a company called WestJet, and I beat out over 400 other applicants to get that position. So when that was offered to me, we picked up our family and moved to a totally different location based on that dream for me, and that has brought me to where I am today as a coach, and I think that that will lend itself to a really great conversation for us today.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many paths that I want to take. There's so many things that you shared. That is just awesome. First of all, kudos to you. You've done some phenomenal things in such a short period of time in your life. And one of the things that I often speak about, and I think it's such a dynamic trait of a leader, is finding those patterns through your story and your journey. And just, listening to the diversity in your experience. Wow, it's a lot of diversity there. A lot of opportunities to work with different people in different climates in different times. And I'm just really curious to know, do you see any similarities? What were some of the key similarities and even maybe some differences that you noticed from going from different companies
Well, the thing that I find, different companies is
and
that
industries too?
and industries, so as far as different companies and industries, the different patterns for sure that you see, one, people don't quit jobs, they quit managers.
Mm-hmm.
So, for sure, that's an element that I've seen, and growth and appreciation are very big that people need. But the number one thing that I am seeing as a coach now that I didn't see back then and throughout my career was the need for psychological safety
Wow.
in the workplace.
Wow.
When people can come to work and they know that they can say what they need to say and bring the ideas that they need to bring, and that those will be
Mm.
respected and those will be encouraged, that I think is the number one way that you will get engagement and buy-in from your workers.
So good.
Mhm.
So give us some practical things and some specific things that you would like to be able to share with us in order to accomplish that goal. Because that's a very powerful insight.
Well, I think the biggest thing as a manager is being able to meet the people where they are. Because when you can show that you see them as a person and not just a number,
Mhm.
that's when you get that connection and they want to work.
Practical example, because I love when we have these talks. I want you to think about a time, even with you, just working in this space. Where is
Mhm.
a time where you personally can reflect back and you realize that you were able to meet someone where they are?
I would say for me, in the job I'm in currently, I run, I do a little bit of serving on the side just to get out, and there was a woman that I was speaking with, and I said to her, "Hey, how's your day?" And she, "Oh, yeah, it's good." I could feel things
Mm,
were not good,
yeah,
and so I leaned in, I said, "No, really,
yeah.
how are you doing really?"
Mm,
And it came up that she was dealing with so much grief. She had lost, parents on both sides, her and her partner.
wow.
And she was holding that all in and trying to keep it together because that's what she thought was expected of her.
Man, this is so good because the reason why she thought it was expected of her is because I do believe that there's a silent culture that has
Yeah,
happened in corporate America
yeah,
that you don't flat out say, but it's there. Like, keep that at the door. We come here to, work and hit these benchmarks and these metrics, right? And so, especially if you're a minority or a double minority, you see it as a weakness almost. Like, nope, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm fine. You
mhm,
know, and that, though as simple as it may feel to you, that one example is big
mhm,
because it really does help leaders. I think that's the part, it's a language thing. We're like, what does that even mean? Meet people the way they are. What does that look like? Like, you literally just gave us something that, like, a person can be like, yeah, I can do that actually. Okay, now I understand. And that's what we want to have, these global conversations around this psychological safety. I love that because I 1,000% agree that because we somehow become adults, there's this understanding that we don't feel, that we suck it up, that life is life, we deal with it. It's almost like we lose our humanity because we age, you know?
you really do, and I think part of the problem is that unspoken, like, I even had that as a boss said to me, I don't care what's going on in your life. When you hit that door,
Right.
you're here to work."
Wow.
You
Oh,
leave that at the door, you're here to
you know what
work.
I mean?
And and I think that when you get that message, you're
Yeah.
getting the message that you're not important.
Yeah.
Just suck it up and go to work and do your job. But I
Right.
think that until you can bring that whole person and what they're carrying, you're not gonna get the best of them because they don't feel that
Agree.
they can open up and let in. And if you're okay with it, I'd love to share an example of how that worked for me.
For
Um,
sure.
in education, I was an education assistant, which for those of your listeners that don't know, those are the people that are trained to be in the classroom working with the kids that have disabilities and challenges that keep them from learning at the rate that other children do.
Mhm.
And we make accommodations for them in their scheduling, in their seating arrangements, or in their lesson plans to help them to be as successful as they can be.
Oh, right.
And so for me, that's my number one concern is
Yeah.
how is that child doing? What is going on for them right now? And how can I meet them there so that we can get them to do as much of what they can do in the classroom as everybody else, but not in a way that is, putting them in a box. And when
Yeah.
I first started this job, I came with so much enthusiasm. I was there early, I was there late. I was bringing all these amazing ideas of what we could do with these children. I was just lit up by the work.
Hmm.
And we had a staff meeting, and there was a topic that the people wanted to bring. And
Mhm.
everyone said, don't do it.
Mm.
Don't do it." And I went, I can't not." There was a child that had hurt and,
Mm.
like, hospitalized
Lord.
2 of the workers and was still in the classroom, and
Oh.
they were talking about bringing her into for more time within the classroom, and everyone was terrified to work with her, and I was one of her workers, and I had to pipe up and say, "You know what? We can't bring her on for more time. She's
Mm.
already struggling with what she is doing now. You can't bring her in because it's dangerous for us." And I said, and I know I speak for all of us when I say that,
Mm. Mm.
you could have heard a pin drop in that room,
My.
and it shifted. It
Mm.
shifted the way that my leader treated me.
Wow. So from that point, when you spoke up and advocated for yourself and your team, there was this silent abuse that was happening in the relationship, almost like in a marriage, where
Yeah.
you're getting this silent treatment,
It
and
wasn't just silent though. It got bad. She would show up in my classrooms. She would show up during my breaks.
you became the
Wi
target.
Yeah, and, checking her watch,
Mm.
and I tell you, from that day on, it just got worse and worse and worse,
Mhm.
and she
Mm.
said, like, "You had so much promise when you came here. What
Wow.
happened to that?" And I went, "Oof."
Wow.
And I had to speak to that with her. I ended up leaving the job, but I went from this person that always wanted to be there. She, even changed all my breaks so that I didn't get any time with any of the other girls.
Wow.
So, yeah, I became a target, and from that day on, I did not feel safe to
Mm.
bring myself to the job, and
Wow.
it showed.
Wow. So this is two-part. For those of you all who are listening, who are the leaders of the leaders who have, people under you, even if it's two people, right? This is such a moment, a sobering moment for us to have a self-check and really look at ourselves from the outside in, because I really believe that there is a gap between my intentions as a leader and the person's experience of me as a leader. And I love the examples because what it does is it helps us to see ourselves like, huh, have I ever said that? In my little inspirational bolts, like, hey, whatever's at the door, leave it at the door. We're here to do, thinking I'm trying to bring inspiration to the team, but really I am creating a guard, a gate for safety, for psychological safety. And so for those of you who are listening that's in that seat, I want you to lean in and see where that search your heart for where you could be showing up in that way. And then for the other person who's listening, who's been on the opposite end, and maybe you've both been on the opposite end. Because what I found, Michelle, is that sometimes we start on that end, and then when we become the leader, we think we're supposed to be like the leader that was doing that to us. So it's like this cycle of just inappropriate behavior is really what it is that perpetuates and creates this toxicity in the culture, even from the point where the staff are like, no, 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 you don't want to do that, like literally warning you. Those are all the signs of a neglectful relationship, but some kind of way it tends to like get by in the corporate space. And I'm so glad we're having more conversations like this because I really believe that this is necessary so we can stop this pattern that's happening. And just because we're an adult doesn't mean we don't feel, doesn't mean we don't have feelings, and doesn't mean that we don't have a voice because we get paid through the company, right? It's almost like I pay you, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to show up. You're supposed to XYZ. And comments like that really move people away from that, what you said, that safety. Are you married?
I am, yes.
You are,
Yes.
so I'm pretty sure you can see, how long have you been married?
We will be married, 19 years in April,
19
and
years.
we've been together 24 years.
Wow. So how are you seeing just the relational capacity when it comes to you being a rock star, you know, in the family, pursuing your dreams, having a family that has obviously a culture that supports you to pick up and move their whole, livelihood and what brings comfort to them to support mom. And I mean, that says a lot about just their love for you and their ability to come behind you, and helping you achieve those dreams. Do you now looking back at your family dynamic, do you believe that there was some intentionality there that you fostered so that the kids felt meaningfully involved in your process when you were applying for the job? Did they know that was going on? How intentional were you? Or maybe not, maybe it could be an honest moment where you reflect back that you keep your not just your husband, but your kids involved in the promotional process and the transition because you move quite a lot, and I can connect with that. My family and I did the same. So I'm just curious to see how you navigated that with them.
Well, first, it was the move, with WestJet was born of necessity. My
Mm,
husband came home and said, "My job has been eliminated,"
just like that.
just like that. And I had just finished up my education assistant programming, and we had wanted to move to Nanaimo, which is a small island, where we had lived previously, and we were like, "Ooh, that's" the call to be back there
Wow.
was so big, and I went online and I said, "WestJet's hiring there." And we went, "Hmm," like, just the divine timing, and I
Yeah.
said, "If I get this,"
That's your yes.
and that was the yes. Yeah,
So it was more like this divine, like, pull into
for
the
sure.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I went ahead, and went down and took the job and did the training, and we said, "Okay, this is good." And then my husband came down and he found work and he did his training, and our kids stayed with his parents. And we said,
Whoa! How
well,
long was
in our house, we said, "Okay, we don't wanna move the kids
Yeah,
until we know what's happening."
right.
So, I went down in October, he came down in
Right.
November, and we let the kids finish out until December, just
Yeah,
making sure 100%, like, this is gonna
yeah,
be good for us and for our family, and we definitely felt it was. So and of course, we let the kids have their turn to talk, like, knowing that that's gonna affect them, they're moving from
yeah,
family, and, obviously, children don't love to move, but we
right,
always made sure that they're included in the conversation
yeah.
because they need to be able to know that they can bring those things to us.
And the reason why I wanted to know that, and that's so powerful, is because this whole thread and conversation has been around psychological safety. And what I would love for people to capture from the 2 scenarios is how the symmetry there. You
Mhm.
The way in which you led the family, you know, even when your husband came home, that was devastating news, but you went right into, and I can only imagine what you felt, but you went into this state, and I don't know the gap in between how long it took, but the point of it is that you went into, "Okay, now what can I do? Let me take this action." And then, okay, if this is that, then this knows. But all those type of things is leadership in action, leadership in motion. And then I love the way you went ahead first, right? And then he goes ahead. So now that whole concept is all about the way in which you transition with love and clarity and insight and wisdom. And it's what creates that psychological safety you were talking about. And there's transitions that happen in the workplace all the time. Sometimes it's switching roles, cross training, going to another department, another manager coming in. There's constantly transitions happening. And I think that that's one of the biggest things where we lose that psychological safety is because we're moving so quick. We don't find out until it's already done. That, to me, when I was in corporate, that was unsettling. The whole shift, the whole leadership changed, and we find out on the tail end, a whole department and the way in which they run, and we find out on the tail end. So I really just love this conversation so much because this will give us an opportunity as leaders to see how we are to move so that that psychological safety is being protected. And like you said, your kids having that voice, knowing that of course they're not gonna just, oh yay, let's move. Cause kids, when they get come, they have their friends. That means a lot to them. even letting your all the way down to your parents coming into your home. That way their environment stayed the same. I mean, it was so powerful how intentional that transition was to me because little do parents realize that one shift of, okay, got to stay with grandma. We're doing this. We got to sell the house. That can change a whole child's, it can shift them in a way that you wouldn't even have a clue how that would affect them. Their room is uprooted, their thing, you know? So even in that, it's so awesome that you were able to move like that. So kudos to you.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you talk about the shifts as well, um, because I've been on the tail end of those corporate things too.
Mm.
Where it's like I walk in to work one day and my boss isn't there, and I'm like,
Right. Right. What
um,
happened?
"Where's my boss?" "Oh, she's no longer with the company. Her job's been eliminated."
Right. Just like that.
Yeah. Or learning that, WestJet had sold from being, a people-led company. We were all share owners in the company,
Hmm.
and I got to my other job and they said, "Oh, I heard WestJet sold today." And I go,
What
"What do you
did
mean?"
you say? You gotta be kidding me.
That's how I found out that I, as a share owner in the company, was no longer a share owner in the company,
What?
but it had been sold to a private company. I found out going to my other job because it was in the news.
What? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, so on the other end of that, I think that as much as you know that corporate and the companies, they have to play it close to the chest because these are big deals and there's lots of money involved and lots of moving pieces, but your team should find out
Before the news.
before the news is, right?
Right.
So, I think it's a matter of how much can you include them
Right.
in the decisions. And I think that sometimes as a leader, you forget what it's like to be on the front lines,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times the decisions are made at a level
Yeah.
that is not conducive to the people who are
Well,
actually doing
yeah,
the
yeah,
role. And
yeah,
when you can go down to that ground floor and say, "Hey, what do you see? What
yeah,
problems do you see? What solutions do you see?"
yes,
And
and
really lean in with curiosity.
honestly, Michelle,
Mm,
that
so good.
is where I feel like the safety was lost and not feeling like you have a voice. Because a lot of times I hear, just different people sharing, especially with women, how they need to speak up and advocate for themselves. And I don't know if that's even the real issue, you know? It is so subtle, but not subtle and their messaging. And when you find yourself in a situation like that, it's almost the same advice I would give to a woman who's in a marriage like that, and I'm not
Well,
pro divorce. However, when people show you who they are, believe them. And, everything rises and falls on the leader. And so I think what happens as women is that we second guess ourselves. We know what we need to do. We stay, we think, we overthink it and we rationalize, tell ourselves rational lies that we believe. And that's how we end up staying stuck.
I think there's another component that, really does give you, vision into managers as well, and that's attachment styles that people have.
Mm.
So there's 4 different attachment styles that people can be born with, or not born with, but that it's how
Mm,
you attach with your caregiver.
mhm,
And there's 2 that are in direct conflict with each other, and that is the anxious attachment style. So
mm,
that person tends to be very insecure, very needing of reassurance. They want to double check things. So that's the employee that will come to the manager again and again and again to confirm, to just make
mhm,
sure, to get all the details.
hmm,
So if you are an avoidant manager, those are the people that are like, they take on things themselves because they didn't have that ability to lean on other people, to know that those people would show up for them. So they learned to do it on their own. So
mm,
when they come under stress, the avoidant leader or the avoidant employee will pull away. They get
mm,
quiet. They don't ask questions.
mhm,
And when the anxious person comes under stress, they need more reassurance.
mm.
They are going to come towards the
Wounds
avoidant
are
person.
hitting one another, are triggering one
Yeah.
another.
Yeah, so you get it's almost like a a loop that happens.
Yeah.
So as the
Or
anxious employee comes to the avoidant boss pulls away. So they
wow.
feel unsupported.
Right.
And there's that dichotomy there.
Yeah.
Or on the other end, an avoidant employee will feel micromanaged by
Right.
an anxious
Yeah.
boss,
That's a good one.
right? So when you can look at why there is that dynamic and be able to communicate on that level. So as an employee, if I know that my boss is avoidant and under stress will pull away,
Yeah.
that gives me so much more power where I can say, knowing that he will pull away or she will pull away when they're stressed, I can write down all the things that I might need reassurance for and bring it to them at one time versus going to them many times. And
Mhm.
then that avoidant boss, knowing that that person needs reassurance, can say, do you have everything you need to be successful?
Mm.
If not, please check in with me at this time. So when
Mm.
you really put in that structure between the two and have that understanding, it allows both people to really bring the best of who they are because they feel
Love
supported.
that. I love that so much. This is what we're talking about, safety. That's that thread,
Mhm.
safety. And this type of, insight, I can see it being extraordinarily positive and, effective when it comes to cultures that, corporate cultures especially. Another thing that came up while you were speaking was something that we did when we were in corporate where once a week, that was the time that we met with our manager, our upper manager. And it wasn't long. It was like maybe like a 20-minute, check in. But because it was weekly, I was able to take those things and write those things down and then come there. And now, like, even in my family, that works better for us in our family meetings because for me, I get overstimulated when I'm getting information randomly like that. I'm not effective at all. And so I ended up creating a communication channel, even for my kids, to where drop the date, time, anything that's expected of me, money, who do you want to pick you up? What do you need from me? Put it in there. And then I have my set time that I do it because other than that, it's just overstimulating. And then my response can feel like I don't care or feel like, I'm not taking this serious or my priorities are more than them. And that's why I was saying that sometimes as a leader, the intentions and how that person experiences you are two completely separate things. And so having conversations like this is so powerful because now we can be intentional about creating safety. That's essentially what we're doing. Understanding the attachment styles is a strategy to create safety. Getting that time where like every week you come and you check in with me even if it's just a personal check-in, "Hey, my son who's just diagnosed with autism, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. I just need a little bit more," or my others, just a check-in. And then the other thing is, does that leader even do you even feel can you even be vulnerable to even say that? That's a whole nother leadership thing because I've experienced having a manager that had a beautiful personality that was open that I didn't mind sharing whenever the space provided. I also had another manager on the other end that even if he was to have those weekly meetings, I wouldn't dare open up and share with him. And so it's just about the posture, because we can say all day that's what we want, but if we're not doing that inner work to posture ourselves, then no one's going to open up to you. And those are things I think you can observe to see how vulnerable are your team. Let me ask you this: what do you think about? Have you ever been a part of cultures that almost feels like they're too playful or too fun, or like the opposite extreme, like they're too friendly? The boundaries seem to be, inappropriate in terms of the types of jokes or the type of things? Have you seen the opposite extreme when it comes to that, like a people pleasing type of manager or the culture is just, you know, um, almost it feels like the opposite, like, okay, let's
Yes.
get some
Yes.
let's get some work done.
Yeah. So for me, I was that people pleaser leader.
What? Oh, wow. Tell me more.
So yeah. Well, when I managed at a restaurant and, the people weren't getting things done. So I'd
Mhm.
be like, "Hey, we gotta get this done."
The
But the
number
biggest
one
thing
sign.
was they knew who
Mhm.
to push back on and who to not push back on, and, they knew that I would be like, "Oh, yeah, don't worry about it," and
Hmm.
I would end up doing it or,
I
something
love
along.
that. How did you
Yeah, they knew, but also not having enough boundaries. Everyone who works in the industry and the restaurant knows that there is definitely, the stuff that crosses the line, like
Mhm.
when the bartender's sleeping with half of the girls,
Right.
or the boss is sleeping with the waitresses and stuff. So
Yeah.
there's always that dynamic
Mhm.
somewhere. It's
Mhm.
not been in every job that I've worked at, but
Mm.
definitely,
Yeah.
it does cross. It does cross
Yeah.
lines for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean,
Uh,
can't you tell how leadership really does reflect the inner workings of isn't that cool? It's like a mirror. It
it
literally
really is.
reflects.
It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah. Well, and it's the thing that I find, so as a server, you can tell how good the management is by how long the servers stay. So the place
Mm.
that I'm in now, when I went in to interview it and they said, "Oh, this girl's been here 6 years and this girl's been here 7 years." And I went, "Huh,
Good
you don't
sign.
get that." It's a very transient industry just
Yeah.
in general, and I'm
Mm.
not sure how much being in a small town plays into that. I think it probably does.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
That's
if
a
you
good
have
sign.
people that stay at a restaurant for a
Mhm.
long period of time, it tells you that something's working
Yes, for
for
sure.
sure,
Well,
for
let
sure.
me ask you this. What is something that you would like to leave the leaders who are listening today? You have such a wealth of knowledge, Michelle,
Mm.
and give it in such a practical way. And I love that so much. I can only imagine seeing you in your zone. I can see why you were able to achieve as much as you
Yeah.
have in your time frame because you're the people's people. I can feel that. You have that empathy that we speak about often and that allows you to be a good listener and that allows you to really care more about the
Mhm.
person than what they than what you wanna teach them, right? And, so I love that. What is something that you could say or choose to give to the leaders today that they can take with them and just start today when it comes to that psychological safety you were speaking of?
Well, I think the biggest thing is care about the people
Mm,
more than the bottom line.
hmm,
Because when you care about the people, then they care about the bottom line,
yeah,
would be one of the things. I
mm,
think so many times as leaders, we can make assumptions
mhm,
about our employees about why they didn't get something done. And a lot of times we think, they're just incompetent or they don't know what they're doing."
mhm,
A lot of times it's, were you clear
mhm,
in what you needed? Were you clear in your expectations? And
mhm,
were your timelines reasonable? I
mm,
think that as leaders, we don't look at that. How much are you loading on an employee? So, as an example, as a people pleaser, my boss would say, "Oh, can you take this on?" "Sure." "You're not,"
right.
because I was terrified to say no.
Wow.
And that's where you get the burnout within your teams,
Yeah.
is you have to see, like, what are they holding,
Yeah. That's
right?
so good. And I'll leave you all with this. Michelle just dropped gems today, and I'm so thankful. And that last word hit home. What are they holding? You know, when she says care about your people, that's the one question that's going to create the curiosity that you need for them to feel like you care. What are they holding? Get curious about that. And this is why the iLead We Rise app is such a exciting project because now leaders get that insight. They get to know as their team is using the app in all the 8 areas and they're getting their leader score and they have honest and accurate measures and they're moving in this direction, you can see, oh wow, right now in this season my relational capacity is low. Right now, this season, I'm fighting for my health. I just got a diagnosis. Right now, and I can see where that leader, the whole leader is. And when I understand that as a leader, I get insight that will allow me to be more mindful. And I think that's why sometimes it's hard for people to just show compassion. And sometimes we'll just, even in traffic, we're not knowing what that person is going through. what they just found out. And so I try to keep that in the forefront of my mind as I'm interacting with people because you just don't know. The smile does not tell much. Like you said, what's really, like, how are you really? And then the opening happened because you just look at everybody doing that. They're just masking. They're just doing the best with what they have in the season they're in. And when we lead in that way, it allows us to be more softer, more empathetic, more compassionate. And I agree 1,000%. When people feel that, that's where safety lives. You've heard it here, you all. Michelle did a fantastic job really sharing what the roadmap and the pathway to how to create psychological safety within your teams. Thank you so much for your insight, for your beauty from the inside out. Truly, you radiate, and I'm grateful to have you on.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. As we close the day, I will leave you with this. It's not about how much you carry, it's about how well you carry it. And peace driven leadership is not something you find, it is something you create. And this now is your moment to create it. Until the next episode, bye bye for now.